Should I go to the funeral even though I'm estranged? Look, we can all speak with a lot of bravado when it comes to family estrangement. We can act all bulletproof and overconfident, but that's all about to be put to the test when there's a family funeral to go to. How will you handle facing your estranged family member at a funeral? It's a tough situation because estrangement is so emotional, and funerals, well, they're really emotional. In an ideal world, funerals are really supportive. We grieve alongside those who love us, and we care that each other are hurting. They see and feel our pain, and we see the pain in their eyes, and it's the same pain that we're feeling at the same time that we're feeling it. It's really validating when that happens. No one understands the intricacies of our loss like our family do. They know the person who died like we do. They know every memory, they know all the details, whether good or bad. We put our arms around each other and hold hands, and we find comfort in each other at a time that we really need it. We're all facing these scary emotions, but we still have each other. We haven't lost everything. We regroup together and we form a new circle of support so that we can face life without the person who's passed away. It's still really tough though. But when family members are estranged, it's a much less comforting picture. Estranged family members can even feel like enemies. There's no emotional safety there. It's just all unresolved pain and rejection. Estrangement is sometimes the opposite of family. There's no acceptance, there's no grace. So we can't open up our hearts and simply grieve together. We can't be vulnerable like that. We're too busy protecting ourselves from each other. The video in my introduction showed how combative and aggressive we can all be when we're estranged. This is because our self-worth has been under attack. Some of you would even say that you hate your estranged family member. And after what's happened in your relationship, that might totally make sense. We usually only hate because we're hurting. We've been betrayed. And anger feels better than betrayal. It feels strong and self-protective. It feels like you're backing yourself. You've been wronged. Your hatred reminds you that you're the victim here. It helps you stay estranged. But something that took me a very long, painful journey to learn is that when we hate someone that we used to love, that hatred is often masking more vulnerable and painful feelings about the person. Hate feels extremely empowering. It overpowers all of our other feelings, the ones that you don't want to feel, like worthlessness, rejection, and the feeling of being unloved or ashamed. And you may even still have love for the person that you're not quite in touch with because all you feel is anger. I hated someone in my life for a very long 10 years. I was quite young, and I told everyone that I met that I hated this person. But 10 years later, when I felt safe enough to be more honest with myself, I was shocked to find that I actually loved this person. Once I let go of my hatred, I found that I had other feelings about this person, and I was willing to see the truth, and I went on a journey to heal. And even though I haven't reconnected with this person, I have had the burden of hatred lifted from me. You don't realize how heavy that burden of hatred is until it's gone, and then you never want to hate again. So unlike all those crazy cats in my introduction video, I recommend that you don't get caught up with hatred at the funeral. The highest probability is that underneath all those angry feelings, your estranged relative still matters to you, and you likely still matter to them. Hey, feel free to comment in the comments below if that's not the case for you. I accept that there are exceptions, and that may be you. The feeling of hatred and of thinking you're hated, though, it's very hard to bear at a funeral, and to be honest, it will just mess with your self-worth. But let's say you do go to the funeral. Will you be emotionally safe? Well, there's no guarantees, but I think it would depend on how resilient you're feeling. People tend to be pretty well behaved at funerals. There's social pressure to behave. You know, grandma and grandpa and all the aunts and uncles are going to be there, and they're going to be mad at anyone who picks a fight with you at the funeral. Aggression and hostility at a funeral are quite disrespectful to the family, and they'd be pretty unhappy about it. So everyone there's likely to be on their best behaviour because they're all gathering to grieve for a family member. Funerals are very heavy, uncomfortable settings. Most people will be more soft-spoken than usual, and they'll speak less in general because words can't fix things at a funeral. Everyone is at the funeral for something that's bigger than the estrangement, and that's where their focus will be. The highest probability is that it will be fine to go to the ceremony. Once the coffin is gone, people become less mindful of the person who's died, though, and it can be more about the people who are left behind then, and it may be harder to stay for that part of the funeral. Unfortunately, the pain of your estrangement loss will be impossible to keep separate from the pain that is coming from the death of your loved one. And for that reason, you may want to give yourself permission to just let the funeral be about the funeral. You've come to say goodbye. You haven't come to a reunion. This is a funeral. Your estranged family member is probably not coming to see you either. They've come for a funeral. Today doesn't need to be about your estrangement. Of course, there will be people who regret going no contact and would like to use the funeral as a way to connect while still saving face. They don't know how else to find their way back to you, and it could be a wonderful restorative moment that sweetens the funeral for the entire family. But you don't have to allow reconnection at the funeral if that's not why you've come. You can be kind and simply say something like, "Look, today's a really hard day. You matter to me, but I want today to be just about the funeral. I'm so sorry for your loss. I care that you're hurting, but I need the space to grieve." If you do have warm feelings towards your estranged family member, you could pass them a card that shows evidence of your warmth to them, so that they don't have to guess if you want them to talk to you or if you still want no contact. Without communication, they really can't know. Another thing that you could do if you want to is to send them a message beforehand offering your condolences and letting them know that you will be respecting their no contact at the funeral, but that you're open to communicating if they let you know that that's something that they would like to do. Your estranged family member is likely to be watching you at least for some stage of the funeral. They'll be looking to see if you acknowledge them or if you don't. This may be their first chance to see you in person since forever. Look, you can only behave how your heart will let you. If you're in pain, you can't hide that. And maybe you don't need to. Just try to do no harm. They may misinterpret your body language. You can't control that. And maybe you don't want to be paying too much attention to how they treat you either, as you're not just bumping into them at the supermarket. You're at a funeral and they're in the early stages of grief, and they might just be doing their best to get through the funeral like you. How they handle the funeral may not have anything to do with you. Even if you remain no contact during the funeral, you can still show warmth. Warmth says to that person simply that you don't hate them. They might not know that. Warmth can be in your body language or in your compassionate eye contact or in your caring smile. Your warmth doesn't mean that you're letting them back into your life. It means that you're recognizing their existence and value as a human being. You can always reinstate your boundaries if your warmth is misunderstood. You can say something like, "Look, you do matter to me, and you always will, but I do still need space and I still want you to respect my no contact. That doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It's just what I need to do for me." If you do want to have a hard conversation with your estranged relative at a funeral, you would have to approach it with curiosity and gentleness as a peacemaker, given your surroundings and the fact that you're both grieving. You can always take a walk across the room to your estranged relative and see how it goes if you want to. See if it's freezing cold over there, or it might even be warm and inviting. Funerals are especially hard though, because at some point we have to see the coffin. And in that moment, our pain could be really raw. We have to face the reality that a death has occurred, and we often don't know what emotions we'll experience in that moment. If your estranged family member doesn't turn up at the funeral, the likelihood is that they still care deeply for the person who's passed away. Their tolerance for handling the challenges that the day may bring just might be lower than yours. They may be more fragile than you know. They will no doubt say goodbye in their own way, and that may be more meaningful to them. Not turning up at a family funeral does go against normal conventions, but those who are estranged with family members are already defying normal conventions. They could even be getting a defining sense of power and identity by prioritizing their own needs instead of dutifully attending. But because we can't communicate with them, we get no insight into what their thinking is. We can't know their motives. We can't know what their not attending the funeral means. I hope that you've found some comfort here today as you prepare yourself to bravely say goodbye to your loved one. It's really hard for you to be experiencing the pain of estrangement at the same time as your loss. I hope that as a valued part of the community here, you find some comfort by our shared experience. To some degree, we all understand what this is like for you. Our psychological arms are around each other. We're holding hands. Please comment if you think that your words could be helpful and comforting to someone else here. I wish you well. Thanks for listening.